Hello, welcome to session 6 of unit 6. Here we are talking about price elasticity of supply. We are still talking about demand and supply elasticities and their applications for this particular unit. And this session happens to be the last session for this unit. I believe most of you are happy because we are the last session for this unit, which is unit 5. And the unit 5 is the last but one unit for this course, and then by the time we are done with it, we will be preparing for the last unit of this course. Now, the concept of elasticity or price elasticity also applies to supply. The producers are relatively responsive or relatively insensitive to price changes. We need to know how responsive the quantity supplied is to the price change of a good. And in this session, it would be provided or introduced to the concept of price elasticity of supply and the factors that amount for the difference in responsiveness of producers to price changes. And so by the end of the session, we believe that you should be able to define price elasticity of supply and explain the determinants, as we can see here, determinants of price elasticity of supply. So let's start with the concept of price elasticity of supply. Now, the price elasticity of supply, ES, let's make this S small, so write it as E, capital E, small s, is defined as the extent or degree of responsiveness of quantity supplied to changes in the price of a commodity, and it's calculated by the formula we have here. This ES is as I've written here. So this is the formula. Percentage change in quantity supply. We will still use like change in Q, and then so change in Q over Q naught divided by, say, change in P over what? P naught. We are interested in using the arc price of elasticity or arc price elasticity of supply, so we are going to be using the averages. So we are going to end up using, say, ES equal to change in Q over Q2 plus Q1 divided by change in P over P2 plus what? P1, which will give us change in Q over change in P multiplied by P2 plus P1 over Q2 plus what? Q1. This is the formula that we will use, the arc formula. So we know that the change in P is what? P2 minus P1. We know that change in P is P2 minus P1, but change in Q is Q2 minus what? Q1. Right, and the coefficient for this is always positive. So the coefficient is always positive. The numerical value of the ES could be explained by any of the following. We are going to talk about the fairly elastic, the inelastic, and then perfectly elastic and inelastic supply using diagrams. So the upcoming slides will be adding. So let's talk about the fairly elastic supply where the ES is greater than 1, as you can see here. So when you calculate and the value is greater than 1, you are talking about fairly elastic supply. Now, a percentage change in the supply of the commodity leads to more than proportionate change in the quantity supplied. For example, from a figure I'm going to sketch here, so let me sketch my vertical and then the horizontal. You know, the vertical is for the price and then the horizontal is for quantity. The supply curve, you know, is a positive slope, so it's going to be this. So we have to get our respective prices and quantities. This is going to be Q naught Q1. This will be P naught P1. This is the origin. So let's look at this diagram below. So assume that price increases from 10%, that is from P naught to P1. The quantity supplied is also expected to increase by more than 10%. So say from Q0 to Q1, as you can see in this diagram. Let's talk about a fairly inelastic supply where the coefficient is less than 1. So let me first draw my graph here. So here is the price column, this is the Q. Supply is a positive curve. So alright, so I have Q0, Q1, the origin, P0, P1. Alright, so a 1% change in the price of the commodity leads to a less than proportionate change in the quantity supplied. So for example, we can see from this diagram we have here, this diagram, from this diagram we say that if price increases by 10%, say from P0 to P1, the quantity supplied is expected to increase by less than, the keyword is less than 10% from Q0 to Q1. We'll move to unitary elastic supply. The unitary elastic supply, we are talking about the coefficient being equal to exactly 1. And here we know that 1% change in the price of the commodity leads to an increase or an equal proportionate change in the quantity supplied, an equal proportionate change. So for example, as I'm going to sketch here, so I have price Q, my origin, the supply curve like this. I have this and I have this. So Q0, Q1, P0, P1. So with this one, you see that the price increases by 10%, say from P0 to P1, then the quantity supply is also expected to increase exactly by 10% from what Q0 to Q1. And here we are talking about unitary elastic supply. We will talk about the perfectly inelastic and then talk about determinants of elasticity of supply and bring this session and this very unit to an end. So what do we mean by perfectly inelastic supply? So this is inelastic supply. Here we are looking at the coefficient being equal to infinity. The commodity is said to have perfectly elastic. So we'll look at the elastic first before the inelastic. So this is elastic, this is elastic. So your commodity is said to have perfectly elastic supply curve when at the prevailing price producers are prepared to supply any quantity at all. For example, the figure I'm going to sketch below here. Alright, so I have my origin, my price, my quantity, and then I'll have only P knots, so only one horizontal line, but I'm going to have different quantities. So I have Q1, Q2, Q3, and then what? Q4. Alright, and this is my supply curve. So from the figure below, the P naught quantity, this is P naught, is P subscript 0, quantity supply ranges from 0 to infinity. So we can consume any quantity. So we can increase the quantity supply up to infinity. So it is from 0 to what? Infinity. The next we'll talk about is the inelastic. Rather, this focuses on the elastic. Let's now talk about the inelastic, and then we talk about the determinants of elasticity of supply. Now, the inelastic occurs when quantity supplied remains constant as price varies. So it means that here the price will be changing, but the quantity supply is going to remain constant. And it's shown by a vertical supply curve. So let me sketch a curve here. So as you know, I have my Q, I have my P. It's going to be like this. So I have my Q nodes, I have my 0, I can have P1, P2, P3, P4 up to infinity. So P1, P2, P3, P4. Okay. So a change in the price level causes no change in the quantity supplied. We can see that agricultural products such as cocoa, timber, and etc. are typical examples of zero elasticity products, since their output cannot be altered in the short run. And this means a rise in the price will not cause quantity supply to increase in the short run. So, for example, as we have in this figure, we can see that price varies, or we have different prices, but the quantity supplied is still the same. And here we are talking about the coefficient of elasticity of supply, price elasticity of supply being equal to 0. Now let's talk about the determinants of the elasticity of supply and bring the session and this unit to an end. Now, some of the factors that account for different responsiveness of producers to price changes are time, technology, weather changes. We can talk about mobility of factors of production. Let me take my time to explain. Let's talk about time. The supply of goods will be more elastic in the long run than in the short run for both agricultural and manufactured and industrial products. So agricultural products take time to grow. For example, a few months for maize and 6 to 7 years for a cocoa plant to mature. That is, the supply of agricultural products such as rubber, coffee, and cocoa tends to be inelastic in the short run. For manufactured goods, on the other hand, it can be produced in the short run, causing its supply to be elastic. In sum, or in total, we can say that since supply can be increased in the long run, irrespective of the type of product in question, then in the long run, all goods tends to be relatively elastic. How about technology? Now, an improvement in technology will lead to an increase in output, that is the quality and quantity. Therefore, given an increase in price, it will necessitate a more than proportionate increase in supply. Alternatively, if the state of technology is obsolete, that is outmoded, efficiency will be low, and hence an increase in price will not necessarily lead to a greater supply, and therefore supply will be inelastic. How about weather changes? Now we are talking about weather changes. A favorable weather condition causes increase in the production of agricultural goods and thereby make their supply elastic. On the other hand, unfavorable weather conditions causes decrease in the supply of agricultural products and makes the supply to be inelastic. With a bad weather, increase in price cannot bring about any significant increase in quantity supplied, and hence supply will be inelastic. Let's talk about the last point, that is mobility of factors. Now, the price elasticity of supply tends to be greater the more good substitutes there are among which factors of production can be transferred. Let's take example, a furniture factory can switch from making chairs to wardrobes, or say making chairs to making tables, whatever you want to switch. So the supply of wood for either the production of tables or furniture tends to be elastic because of the ease with which it can be substituted for the production of either tables or other furniture. However, where the resources are less mobile, elasticity of supply is low. This brings us to the end of this particular session 6, and this very unit 5. See you in unit 6, the final unit, which talks about the theory of consumer behavior. Until then, I will say thank you.